So you're currently on this tour, 50 Years a Rebel. That's sort of my first question is, do you still get a buzz from playing this material after all this time? This wonderful material, I have to say.
I'm playing new material. Yeah, I'm playing new material.
Yeah.
Brand new. I mean, the Uncovered album, we're calling it the new album because it was out for 3 weeks before the first Where the Doors got slammed.
Yeah.
In March 2020. Yeah, it's only 3 weeks out on release, so I've not had a chance to promote it. And I'm promoting it now with a vengeance. Yeah, it's so we start the set with half a dozen tracks from this album.
Oh, good.
Which is all strings, no keyboards, no electric instrument, no EQ. I don't know if you've heard that album, but it's no EQ. It's completely raw and organic, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so no. Anyway, I do. You ask your friend Bruce Springsteen. Does he get tired of Born to Run? No, he doesn't. He doesn't. I mean, I don't get tired of Make Me Smile. Why would I? It's like I was just watching all of the Glastonbury stuff all over that last weekend, and I've played there 3 times and hundreds of festivals, of course. But wherever I am in the world, it could be 200 people in an acoustic venue. It could be 500. It could be 5,000. I've just played to 2,000 in Glasgow recently. 50,000 at the big festivals. And whatever else happens, I've got Make Me Smile, and it's known throughout the world. And when an audience picks up on a song like that, Barry, life's worth living. You're carried along by that kind of involvement. It's not love and passion. I'm not going to get silly about it.
Yeah.
It's not that poetical. It is just human beings having a common cause for 5 minutes, coming together. There's a sort of no, I don't get tired of it because especially now, there's I've always had an easy rapport with audiences. I love the gig. I've always had a really easy rapport. But this is different. There's a communion, a small c. I'm not going to get religious on you, but it's a coming together, a sharing, a communion, literally. But everyone has waited 2 years for these concerts. They've had tickets for over 2 years.
Yeah.
And there's a feeling in the rooms that we play. As I say, I can't put it any other way without being pretentious. There's a sense of communion. And I've noticed also that, in a room, we're playing theatres between 300 and 700 seats, I suppose, most of them, and on the acoustic tour. And for that 2.5 hours or 3 hours that they're in the venue for, I play for nearly 2.5. And what they're feeling is, no matter what religion you might be from, or what background you're from, or what job you hold, what you do with your spare time, what your hobbies are, for 3 hours, we're all like-minded. And I've never thought of that in my 50 years of doing the job. I've never realized that. It's never occurred to me.
Yeah. Well,
It's post-pandemic.
I mean, that album you mentioned, the Uncovered album, I was listening to it the other day, and it sounds so unembellished and intimate. It's like it almost sounds to me like a one-take performance. I don't know if that's right, but I'm just wondering, was that intentional? And if it was, how did you achieve that with that album? I love the cast.
Thank you. So did he.
Oh, did he? Good.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful song as well.
Oh, it's a wonderful song. And he wrote me, we sent all 9, 2 of them are my songs, 9 are not. And we sent UB3, is it? Cool. My engineer sent a copy of my interpretation to all of the 9 songwriters. And Yusuf wrote back an absolutely beautiful note, bless him. It was so kind and generous. And it was deliberate. My engineer, Matt Butler, we were down at Rockfield for a couple of weeks, and I told him what I wanted, and he said, I said, look, we've got the best musicians money can buy. These guys are virtuoso players. Martin Simpson, for Pete's sake. Barry Wickens, virtuoso players. And I said, we've got the best players money can buy. We've got the best instruments money can buy. We all show up with handmade guitars, vintage Martins and Somatises, you know. They're not the Sacaminis I play on stage. You know, you bring the mint stuff turns up at studios, and he's got the best microphones money can buy. Rockfield has the best Pro Tools that money can buy. I said, no EQ, no EQ. Don't touch a knob. No outboard equipment. It's not here. He said, so you don't want me to engineer? I said, well, mic us up, mate. Mic us up. and I want a sound. They're my arrangements, you see. They're interpretations. They're not covers. And I just said to him, I've got to make these sound as if I wrote them. It's got to be that intimate. I've written these songs. And sure enough, Barry, people are not that don't do their research as a rule. I was a trained journalist. I can't help it. Check, double check, then check again. But people don't do that. And we've had all kinds of compliments, like hundreds. Oh, have you heard Steve's new song? How can I tell you? Yeah, please, I wish.
Yeah.
I'm not pretending, it's just, yeah, I said to Matt, I've got to sound like I wrote this. Mm-hmm. And I've got to sound like I'm in the living room with them, and I'm in the car with them. And I think it does sound like that, and I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, it's a fabulous sound. I mean, you talked about engineers, and I couldn't help but ask you. I mean, was it intimidating at the time when you worked with Jeoff Emerick?
I wasn't intimidated because I was 22 and full of the self-confidence of young manhood. The intimidating part was being so young was when the producer of the Human Menagerie, that was Neil Harrison, who was an in-house producer at Manchester Square, mm-hmm. EMI. And Neil, I mean, so it's all so different now. Neil got a blank check from EMI. Ridiculous. I mean, it was when we put down the backing track of Sebastian, which is, I was busking that. And I was busking it in the subways, and it's 3 chords. And we put down the backing track as a 5-piece band. And then Neil says, I'm going to get it orchestrated. Really? Whoa. And when they showed up with a 40-piece symphony orchestra and a 20-piece choir, that was pretty moving for a young man. You know, that was pretty daunting. I say daunting. Yeah. And it was all rather splendid.
It's interesting. So I was telling my daughter the other night that I was going to be speaking to Steve Harley from Cockney Rebel. So we were watching some of those old performances on YouTube, and one of the questions what she wanted to know particularly is, where did that kind of mascaraed, bowled hat look come from?
Oh, blimey. That was the time of A Clockwork Orange and Cabaret. And they were both very influential films on all the art school people and myself. I'm not from art school, but they were stylistically very powerful films.
Yeah.
Stylized, but that was okay too. So was Roxy Music, you know. So was David Bowie. It was all part of that period, wasn't it, really? I mean, I never felt for 1 second that I belonged in something called glam rock. Not a bit. It was just that I wanted the first Cockney Rebel to seem a little theatrical. It was of its time, and I can't explain it other than to say that.
Yeah.
You know,
but it's interesting. I mean, you talk about it was that period of glam. So what made you decide that during that time that, let's not have any electric guitars on this first LP? Was that a kind of a bold choice considering the context?
Well, to this day, I find electric lead guitarists difficult to get along with.
Okay.
Yeah, they are the most egotistical in any rock band. You'll find the ego is all in the lead guitar player's head.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually frustrated frontmen, and they're usually quite well, the show-offs. And I still find problems with them as a rule. Back then, I don't know. I did really want to create an original sound post Woodstock.
Sure.
We're into the 70s. We had a lead guitarist. He played a very nice Gibson SG. We did the first Cockney Rebel before we had a record deal, but I don't know. I'm not a folk from the folk clubs at all. I played in them just to fine tune the songs. There was nowhere else to go. But I'm a Londoner. I'm London through and through. There's no folk music in London.
Yeah.
The Jolly Tars would have come and gone from Deptford Creek and Greenwich, taking their shanties with them. But we didn't have. I didn't grow up with London music. Everywhere else you go in Great Britain, and I've been to every little corner of Great Britain, obviously, there's the indigenous music. It could be clogs and Morris dancing and finger in the ear stuff, But each corner, like Cornwall to Scotland, Yorkshire to Devon, they've all got their own local music, indigenous songs, and particularly Yorkshire, of course. But I just was trying to get something, an original sound, and the lead guitar went. There is one on the Human Menagerie, actually, on a song called What Ruthie Said. Yeah. There is a Les Paul playing 4 to the bar with a repeat echo. But that's all. It's just me, one song, but not a lead guitar.
Yeah. Interesting. Actually, one of my subscribers has asked, ask Steve what books and authors influenced or inspired him around the time of the Human Menagerie and Psychomodo.
Oh, well, I was reading everything. Mm-hmm. I was voracious. I read everything. The more American of its time, like William Burroughs. Yeah. I'd read the French poets as well, influenced by my English teacher. I'd read Baudelaire and all of them. T.S. Eliot, I did Eliot. It was my specialist subject on Mastermind. 4 quartets. I still carry a small edition of T.S. Eliot's complete works in my case. It's with me everywhere I go in the world, and I still dip into it quite often. But I'd read mostly American art. Steinbeck. I devoured Hemingway. Mm-hmm. As a journalist, when I was a journalist, a young reporter, Hemingway showed us how to get around the $10 words, as he called them. To get to the point. Yeah. Say what you're thinking. And I still write like that to this day. No flannel. And so they were the biggest influences, Hemingway and Eliot, I would say. But I read the more modern stuff as well. I've got a load of it. Study here, loads of it. I can't give a book away. I can't. No, can't give a book away.
And quite rightly too. Yeah. Well, the same guy goes on to say, could you ask Steve to provide some background on Mirror Freak, both the riff and the lyric, and was this composed primarily on the keyboards?
Mirror Freak. I wasn't writing at all on piano back then. I do now a lot, but that was it was written long before I met him. but it was about Mark Bolan. In 75, early 76, I think, we became very good friends until he died. We were really quite close. And I never told him. And he was a fan. He loved the Human Menagerie and Psychomodo. He talked about that sort of stuff a lot. But Mirror Freak was watching him on the telly with his feather boa and his high heels and his makeup. Exhibition yourself. We'll put a show on the shelf. Yeah, there's Mark all over.
Okay.
Mirror Freak.
Great
Mark
tune.
would just, he couldn't pass him. Huh?
You couldn't pass a mirror.
He couldn't pass a mirror without looking. He was something else. He was an absolute one-off.
Yeah.
God alone knows where he would have gone with his career. I mean, completely one-off, Mark. Loved him.
Okay. It's interesting you talk about interesting books and literature, because I think come up and see me, make me smile. It's just this wonderful juxtaposition between the very bouncy rhythm of the song and the rather sneering lyrics. I just wondered whether or not you were influenced by some of those writers you mentioned. And also, have you heard the wedding present version of that number?
Yeah, it's my favorite. Yeah. The interpretations are the ones I like. There's hundreds, 150 of them. Mostly they're just covers. I've heard loads of them. You think, why did you bother? Duran did it. Nick Rhodes produced a really, really interesting interpretation.
Yeah.
And so did Vince Clarke, Erasure. And that was a good one. But the Widows, yeah, a friend of mine at the time, I'd known for a very long time, a really close friend. I thought he would know me well. And he called me, as you did in those days. Have you had the wedding presents make me smile? No, I haven't. Oh, crikey, you'll hate it. It's like punk, you'll hate it. It's terrible. So then I heard it on the radio. Then I saw them on Top of the Pops. And I called him back and said, you don't know me at all. They've got it. They've got it. They've got the interpretation right. That's finger pointing. Yeah. You've done it all. They go for it. And I said, this is right. Yeah. I mean, I didn't do it like that because I wanted a hit record. I didn't really talk about the lyrics until a few years ago. I kept it to myself because I didn't want people to be put off. It doesn't seem to make any difference.
Isn't it a song about abandonment in some respects?
Yeah, totally. I was abandoned by 3 musicians. They walked out on us after, 44-date sellout tour, hit singles, hit albums, and they came demanding all sorts of things. And we said, my manager and I said, that's just not going to happen. Well, we can do it ourselves. Well, go on then. It's kind of like that. It wasn't very pleasant, but Nor was walking out on me 6 weeks before second headlining Reading Festival.
Right.
Yeah, and my manager said, well, that's Reading off then. And I said, no chance. Are you joking? Are you kidding? With me, the answer is yes. What's the question? I mean, I just said, I'm playing. You haven't got a band? I'll get a band. I was like 23. Nothing was going to stop me. And we did the Reading Festival, second to headline, with new musicians, including electric guitar.
Right.
Yeah.
Reading's my hometown, actually.
Oh, yeah? Hexagon.
Yeah. Reading Hexagon, yes, as well. I mean, you mentioned the wedding present and punky. I mean, I'm talking about punks. I've just finished reading John Lydon's biography, and he still insists that yourself and Rick Wakeman were somehow responsible for getting the Pistols kicked off the A&M label. And I'm just wondering, what did you think of that whole punk explosion anyway? Is John Lydon speaking a load of hogwash there, do you think?
Yeah, madness.
Yeah.
McLaren started all that.
He did, yeah.
It was EMI, wasn't it? It was EMI, not A&M.
Well, they got dropped by EMI, didn't they? I think they were dropped when they dropped by A&M.
Yeah.
Got thrown off that label as well. One of them, anyway.
I know nothing. I've had no contact with A&M in my life.
Right.
When EMI dumped, McLaren was quoted in the national press as saying that Steve Harley had what effect did he think I could have, for Pete's sake? I wasn't Paul McCartney.
Interestingly,
I was
reading those
I didn't
books
give a
of
damn
John
about
Lydon, they don't speak very highly of Malcolm McLaren at all. None of them.
Well, he was a chancer.
Yeah.
I said in the national press, he's misinformed or he's a liar. And I said, if I'm wrong, he can sue me, and he never did. I just said he'll get his. It was absolute bollocks. I mean, first of all, I wouldn't have wielded any influence whatsoever, and secondly, why would I care? Punk just went way above my head. I was established and getting on with my own life. I wasn't interested in it. I mean,
well, Rick Wakeman says the same thing, actually.
Well, yeah, Rick he was on A&M, but I was at EMI.
Yeah.
That's all just absolute nonsense. I wish he'd stop saying it. Get over it, you know?
Yeah, it's in his biography at the moment, his current one. He's still harping on about that.
Well, it's
Sales
just
books, maybe. Sales books, maybe.
It's absolutely no consequence to me at all. Absolutely none.
Interestingly, you know, Frank Zappa famously said that jazz isn't dead, it just smells funny. I'm just wondering, do you think rock music or music in general is in absolute peril due to the streaming services and file sharing and things like that?
Oh, you don't want to get me started on Spotify. 0.004 of a penny. I mean, it's iniquitous. Interestingly, one of the acoustic band is 35 years old, and he said in the tour bus a few weeks ago, he said he was writing songs and going to release some stuff he's writing. And I said, oh, when you're finished, just chuck us a CD. And he said, oh, it won't be on CD. They don't sell anymore. And I said, do you want to talk to my merchandise man later today? You want to ask him how many copies of Uncovered have sold on these tour dates? It's thousands. Honest. It cost me a lot of money to make that album, but I've got it all back.
Yeah, good.
It's selling. We pressed 1,000 vinyl albums. They've got 20 quid a time. It's thousands have sold of Uncovered. I can't even tell you the figure, but they fly out. They fly out, and so they don't sell anymore. He says, "Well, that's your demographic, young man. You know, I don't patronise it like that, obviously, but his idea is probably right in his world. But my demographic is different to his, and I buy CDs. My wife buys them. We play them. And so I don't know much about the state of it all, Barry. I've got to tell you, I live in a bit of a cocoon. When they build these dates later in the year, we're doing 6 or 7 the rock band shows in the bigger halls. We're calling it 50 Years of Rebel, and why not? You know, it's 50 years since the first Cockney Rebel shows were in July '72. So why not? It's not a bad tag to put on your posters.
Anyway, I just want to say good luck with that tour. Enjoy your tea and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Barry. It's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, all the best, mate.
Good luck with your show. And to you. See you, mate. Bye-bye.